Well, hey, YouTube, we've been talking about Frank Zappa, and it was in the news today that Lady Gaga sold the Frank Zappa house to Mick Jagger's daughter. So we can go over and take a look at this. There she is. This is Mick Jagger's kid. LG is proving she really moves like Jagger, and we're not just talking musically. The House of Gucci stars moved out of the House of Gigi, or at least the Hollywood Hills House of Gaga, the one formerly long owned by Frank Zappa. LA Magazine first revealed that the estate sold for nearly 6.5 million in a very quiet off-market deal. And it turns out the previously undisclosed buyer is in fact rock and roll scion Elizabeth Lizzie Jagger. Frank bought the fabulously quirky compound in the 70s, reportedly for just $75,000, and over the next 2 decades, all the way until his 1993 death, the widely influential musician raised his family on the property, which includes a vaguely Tudor-style main house with 6 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms, plus an attached staff apartment. There are also 2 detached guest houses, both styled in a contemporary manner, remarkably dissimilar from the main home old world-inspired architecture. Zappa's widow, Gail, continued living in the house until her own death in 2015. Following summer, Zappa's children sold the place to Gaga for roughly $5.3 million. Shortly after the deal closed, Gaga told Howard Stern that the house is very special and magical, and she announced her intentions to restore it and also kind of leave it the way it is. She also disclosed that the deal included Zappa's personal soundboard or mixing board from his recording studio. Though it's unclear if Gaga still owns that soundboard or if it now belongs to Jagger. Although I'm sure she sold all that stuff. I'm sure she did. Maybe she didn't. Maybe she was too busy and too rich to worry about what it was worth, and it would be worth more sentimentally, I would think, to be left there. Although she's become known in her own right as a model for major brands like blah 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 and an activist for blah blah blah, Jagger is almost perhaps the most famously the third of Mick Jagger's 8 children and the eldest of his 4 children with 1970s supermodel Jerry Hall, who is now married to multi-billionaire Rupert Murdoch. For her own part, 37-year-old Lizzie is married to film producer Christopher Bahalau, and they welcomed their first child last year. So that child is lucky he's going to be growing up in this wonderful mansion, Frank Zappa's old house. And there you go. It's owned now by Lizzie Jagger. So, again, my thing with Zappa is they painted him out like he was this family man and this dad, but he wasn't faithful to his wife. And I'm a married man. My whole thing is don't lie. I would never cheat on my wife. And Frank kind of didn't live that way. So I take issue with a lot of his lyrics. I think that maybe that was what he did to psychologically make sure that he gave himself some leeway. Meaning, he knew he could never be popular because his music was so out there and complicated and weird as far as what the normal rock audience will expect. So writing in these disgusting lyrics would give him a psychological out where he would never have to feel frustrated that his stuff wasn't really popular because the subject matter is controversial. That all being said, I think that Frank did carry around guilt, and I think that he would agree with me in that the way that it's supposed to work is you have the mama, the daddy, and the baby. And that the mama and the daddy are both there supporting each other, aiding and raising this child. And that's the way that it works. you can think that you can do it any other way you want, or yank the dad out of the picture and have the state play daddy, but it doesn't work that way. And we've been shown what happens when you do that. So that's what I believe. That's my personal convictions, and everything that I say when I talk about this is typically just my opinion. You know. So if you're a person that really hates to see a father or a full family with the mom and the dad and the kid, maybe you might want to find a different type of channel to watch, because I'm pretty old fashioned when it comes to that stuff, and that's kind of the filter that I run everything through, and it does kind of affect me when I pick an artist that I'm going to invest time in listening to. Like if the guy has had a bunch of divorces, that's going to bother me. You know what I mean? I think the if I could find an artist that's married to the same girl, then it's a lot easier for me to justify spending time consuming their art. You know. But as far as putting somebody up on a pedestal and thinking that they're something really special or an amazing human being, all of those guys that I listen to their music, they were all flawed. They all had like, there was always stuff in their personal life that I was just like, man, this guy, I don't agree with him. You know what I mean? So there's never really been an artist where I felt like, man, that guy, you know. I always see people kind of through this filter of an old-fashioned Sunday school type of how it's supposed to be. And more times than not in rock and roll, you don't get that. And Frank was one of those guys who was really out there. Like it seemed to me like, I don't know, it seemed like he really fooled around a lot. There were some interviews where he was like, yeah, you come home after the tour and you have to get a shot, you know, because you picked up some STD. It's just like, man, you're saying that? Like, I don't know. It seems like you're flaunting it at that point when you're supposed to be in a monogamous relationship. And my points that I tried to make in that first video where I talked about this stuff that was, I thought that perhaps all the strife that we're seeing playing out in the media, if you've paid attention, there's been a circus that's gone on in the Zappa family since he passed away, and it got even worse since Gail passed away. And my interpretation of that is that's all manifest because of what he did. That if he would have kept his pants on, if he would have been faithful to his wife, that they would have had a much happier marriage. And as they got older and their children came of age, that you would have just seen more harmony in that family rather than it's insanity. It's what you've seen. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. So rather than blaming Amit, which I love to do, don't get me wrong, got to put some blame on the dad, on Frank. But he paid a heavy price. You know, he left behind an incredible legacy, monumental body of work. But he only lived. I'm two years older than how long he lived. I can't imagine what it would be like to pass away now. It certainly seemed like I'd have a lot more life left to live. So it's really sad, and I guess that goes to show that perhaps at sometimes not being so proud of ourselves and thinking that we can beat the system, like Frank saying, everyone is telling him, and he's saying, well, I live on this food here. These cigarettes are my food, and this black water is my coffee. Well, it's a funny thing to say, but when you're dying of prostate cancer at the age of 52, maybe it's not so funny. You know what I mean? All right, you guys, take care of yourselves. Try to do the right thing when you can. Not that I'm perfect, but if I'm going to have a platform and I'm going to talk, I'm going to want to try to be serious at times and real, especially when I get a comment like I did on the last video from someone who obviously is at the very beginning of their path. It has to make me think that I might need to try to put the emphasis on do the right thing at times. It's pretty easy. We as people, we kind of know when we're not doing the right thing. Don't you? Don't you have a conscience like that? Anyway, like I love to say, stay warm, hug your pets, and peace.